What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast, our first podcast back in the new year of 2023. Kicking it off with the UFC card this weekend, Strickland versus Imavov, a late notice main event replacement. And I'm back with my man, as always, Ozzy. How we doing in this new year, my man?
Yeah, happy New Year. Back first card of the year. Obviously, I think we're coming up on a 1 month break, more or less, or 5 weeks or so. So, a lot of people got antsy, a lot of stuff on MMA Twitter,
A
but
lot.
a lot of stuff. So, but we're here. We're first event of the year and hoping to make it to open it up well. I thought for January cards, I'm kind of used to them, making them a little bit bigger cards. I feel like, sometimes they would do them, they'd be in like Abu Dhabi already or whatever it is. A little bit of a weaker card, I think, to start off. But interesting, nonetheless. It's like a whole new season. Usually there's no off season. It's like, week to week. When you have like a 5 weeks off, you kind of think about, what you've done, kind of looking forward, and then, looking into that first wave of fights of the year for the year.
Yeah, a lot of good points brought up there. First of all, the MMA, drama situations going on. Just an endless supply of crazy shit going on in the MMA Twitter betting sphere. It's been great to witness. But we are of course referring to the downfall of Lock of the Night. And witnessing that in all of its glories. The Trotman files. If you haven't seen them, you got a lot of research to catch up on. And then good point about last year, the first card of the year. Last year though, we started off hot. Remember, we started off with Court McGee and Calvin Kerr picking up some underdog victories in the first card of the year. Bill Algeo was in that card, winning as an underdog too. So I've got some faith, some good vibes heading into this card. I think the matchups are any good. I mean, a lot of contender series guys making their debuts. But I do have some, betting thoughts and some bets I'll definitely be placing as we get closer to fight night. I already have a few. Um, but the last event we did was almost 4 weeks ago. Was a small win for me, 1.2 unit win for me. Had a couple of bad beats there with Saeed Yakub money line. Don't know what happened there and Albazi on his way to winning the decision, knocking him out there. But scraped away a small profit on the year, 6.3 units profit with a whopping 2% ROI. I'll take it. It's profit. Definitely ups and downs throughout the year, but I'm feeling good going into this year, and nice to have a break and get rejuvenated a little bit. What about you, Ozzy?
Yeah, so last event, best bet one in that Morozov and Journey Newsom goes the distance. Didn't get there with any of the straight bets. I personally, I score the fight for Sean Strickland. I bet him as well at plus money, but I thought that he won that fight. Obviously, a bunch of the rounds, it could kind of, are in a lot of the gray area. Just a little bit more than break even on that event. Finished the year unfortunately down just about 8 units on the year. Mostly on the straight plays. On props was definitely profitable. But just towards the end of the year, a few fights didn't go a certain way. Uh, ran bad on a few of them. I thought that I would still get pretty good lines on most of them, but just kind of process was off, and those like 4 to 8 matchups that you kind of need flipped. Didn't go my way that year or in 2022. But not a crazy loss in terms of overall outlay. But definitely looking to turn that around in 2023.
Yeah, obviously only track bets mean so much. We're constantly adding bets, as the cards are going, live bets, and what it really matters at the end of the day is your own spreadsheet, the own profit and loss that you guys know, that you guys track independently, not necessarily what's on Bet MMA. Bet MMA is just a loose indicator of all things. But enough recap, enough filler. We're gonna get into these fights, 12 fights. And we're kicking things off. We're starting off motherfucking hot here. Priscilla Cachoeira, Cachoeira-Eubanks in the women's flyweight division. The line here, Cachoeira minus 245, Cachoeira plus 210. This seems like a pretty binary matchup, and I feel like everybody in the world is thinking oh, either Sajara takes her down and, finishes her on the ground, or Eubanks gasses out and Cachoeira knocks her out on the feet. I mean, it seems like people are smashing the under, Eubanks. Um, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but I mean, when everyone has the same consensus opinion on a fight, it goes south pretty quickly, I feel. And I think this could potentially, devolve into a sloppy decision type of fight, back and forth fight. Um, I mean, Eubanks, she should have all the skill in the world to take her down and finish her. But Cachoeira, she's an enigma. I mean, her skill sucks, but she still somehow overperforms and wins fights. I think she honestly overperforms in like every one of her fights. I mean, Lipski, I mean, probably better, like, technically than her, but Cachoeira just, blitzed her, threw some hands, and next thing you know, won by, 60-second knockout. So, I'll be cheering for Cachoeira to pull off something, miraculous here. Sajara, man, she fucking sucks. She's 7-7. She constantly struggles with making weight. She's going back up between 125 and 135. She's never really settled. And at a certain point, I know she's a good grappler, but she's 37. She has trouble making weight. Her cardio is extremely inconsistent. And then, she's just a middle tier 7-7 fighter at this point. So I don't think you can be laying juice on her, especially not at minus 200. Um, and I think that I honestly hope that Cachoeira pulls off some shit and knocks her out in the late rounds because Sajara deserves to lose. She is not New York certified, in my opinion, Ozzy. I would like to hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, I don't think she has any relation to New York. I think maybe a little bit of New Jersey. Um, but yeah, I mean, Sajara came over to MMA from the jiu-jitsu scene where she won a lot. She was in a lot of the training rooms. That is her base. In the UFC, she hasn't always been one either a consistent, wrestler or just I don't know, is maybe a little bit harder for her to get these submissions on girls, after weight cuts and stuff like that. Now I have no idea what weight class this is in. I would say it matters, but I think
$25.
it's at 125. Okay, so both girls have a hard time making this weight. Sijara is a bully, but if she starts getting tired, at all, she will not be able to stop the avalanche that is Priscilla Cachoeira. And I mean, I would bet on that to happen, at some point, but the thing is, Cachoeira, there's just like a big, a reaction deficit here if they do start grappling. So that's the not a fight that I like to bet, but if I were to bet, I would bet one of these girls to get finished. So I don't know what the under is, maybe doesn't start around 3, something like that. Um, because I could see either of them getting finished, but I'm not. This is a trash fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe Eubanks
Very
sub
weird
1.
fight.
Eubanks sub 1 is
Yeah,
what,
let's move
plus
on.
600? Plus
Yeah,
600,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think, is not bad.
Maybe
Um,
maybe sub 2.
I think I honestly think, I mean, the Gatto, one last point I'll make is rewatching the Gatto fight this week. I mean, she takes Gatto down and ends up on top of her in 29 seconds. And she lays on top. Gatto's in guard the entire time. And round 2 starts, and
Hey,
Eubanks is gassed out.
hey,
She did nothing. She did nothing.
you telling me you wouldn't lay on Gatto for as long as she wanted?
I just don't know
Exactly.
how she got tired from
Exactly.
that. She had to defend a
Exactly.
fucking
You
Kimura
be
one
t-
time, and
you be tired too up there, buddy.
yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, fair point, considering that Gatto is a better threat than Cachoeira is. I could talk about this fight for hours, though. This shit is lit.
uh, I'm fucking sure you could.
Next fight, flyweight division, men's this time. Jimmy Flick, Charles Johnson. Jimmy Flick making his UFC comeback here. Charles Johnson minus 330. Jimmy Flick plus 270. You think Flick, coming out of his retirement, is going to be anything of a problem for Charles here?
I mean, Jimmy Flick, he's coming back to defend his belt. He is the linear um flyweight champion of the LFA. And Charles Johnson, he picked up that strap after Jimmy, put it down for them. So this is, obviously a regional, world title fight. So respect to both these guys, for making this money fight happen. And I'm intrigued. Obviously you got guys making videos talking about betting scandals on this fight. So this fight moves a needle. I know Dana White slapped up his wife a few days ago, but this fight right here is moving the needle as well this fight week. So, my eyes are definitely on it. I like Jimmy Flick. He's a very opportunistic grappler. If you look at that fight against, he had who's that guy? The Fish guy, Greg Fish, something like that. Fisher.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was pretty fucking sick. That transition there. And Charles Johnson, he just, I felt so lucky to get away with a win in his last fight. Obviously, you as well. But I feel like I deserved it after losing on Zimagulov
Hold
versus
up, hold up. I
Molina.
live bet him at plus
Good for
800 though.
you.
You bet him
Perfect.
pre-fight, didn't you?
Yeah, 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 bro. One and the same.
Okay.
One and the
No,
same.
no, no, no.
By
Plus
the way, we
800
both
minus
got lucky. You just got more lucky.
uh,
For you. You see, that's the kind
no,
of guy
no,
you are. You're that kind of guy that if anybody takes the girl home, you're talking about who, right? Yeah, okay. But look, we won the fight, okay, and we both lost when we had Zumagulov against Jeff Molina. So I feel we were paid off there. Obviously, I had thousands more on Zumagulov that night, but I felt a little bit more whole. But the point is, Martian, before you rudely interrupted me, Charles Johnson, he just doesn't get going. He looks a little fragile in there. He kind of like sometimes if he's not completely, on the offensive, he's looking a little shaky in there. It happened in the Moda fight as well. And then he'll kind of like get the fight back. But against Jimmy Flick, like, I don't know why people are so down on Jimmy Flick. I feel like they're treating him like he's Derek Minner, bro. They're like if he's just a quitter, he sucks. Like no, this guy's pretty talented. So I
like Paul
mean,
Craig.
yeah, like that exactly. If I was getting, I don't really. This card kind of snuck up on me, but if I was getting in the 300s still on Jimmy Flick, I would take a shot on it. But maybe I'll take a little stab on the by submission and call it a day. But Charles, you know, I don't know. I feel like he can make a bad decision in there and have Jimmy Flick all over his neck. So
What do you think about our boy Gugabe's comparison? He's like a
what do
Bobby
you say?
Green archetype.
Yeah, I mean,
Same.
yeah, it's good. He is. I
It
mean, he
applies. It
is. He
applies.
doesn't
Yeah.
hit very hard as well. I mean, he
No,
just
that's the thing, bro. That's a great point. Is the over in this fight, bro? Is crazy. I mean, you just said he doesn't hit hard. I agree. I mean, I do get the vibe that Flick, might kind of shell up at a certain point. But I mean, the fight going the distance is plus 200, which at flyweight is just insane. I think Charles is good enough to avoid the submissions, and I think Flick should be tough enough and scrappy enough to hang in there for a while. So I think the goes the distance is the best bet on the fight. I don't think any Johnson bets at this point are any value. I mean, his KO line is plus 110. Are you kidding me, guys? Wait, when has Charles Johnson ever in a 3-round fight ever knocked anybody out and looked like super replicable? I mean, it might have happened a few times back in his early career, but I don't understand that this line at plus 110 for KO. They're just like you said, they're treating Flick like he's just a bum who's gonna get hit one time and curl up. I don't think though. I think he's gonna fight. I think he's gonna try to battle through something. I can definitely see him having a good start here and maybe fading away as the fight goes. But I'll be on I'll probably do the over 2.5 instead of the GTD. I guess it does have potential to finish late, but I mean they're pricing this under at a crazy price in my opinion. You agreeing?
let's just move on.
Next fight, people are talking about this one all around the world. Highly anticipated. Dan Argueta, Aguirre, I think his name is. Argueta minus 600, Aguirre plus 425. Both guys coming from the Illinois wrestling scene. Argueta definitely better accomplishments, better record. And this Aguirre guy takes people down and finishes them and just fought 6 or 7 bums, finished them all instantly. And he's in the UFC by an extreme stroke of luck. I think Argueta is just a few steps ahead in all areas and, will win the fight wherever it goes, probably devolving into a bit of a sloppy grappling fight. But I haven't even looked at the props for this fight. And do you have any thoughts on this one at all?
I have no idea. I've didn't look anything on this fight. All I know is I think these guys have some kind of connection. They know each other a little bit. They're both from like that Illinois scene. But don't know anything about this Nick guy. We don't find out.
Yeah, I mean, like if you watch tape, you don't learn anything. I mean, I just described it to you. He takes people down, bums, and finishes them. I think he fought Jay Ellis. The Jay Ellis who's lost like
Him as
93.
well. Him as well.
No, 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 this is no, I'm thinking of a different guy. That might be
I'm about
the
to
later in the
say.
card.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
overall, I mean, I like Argueta overall. You know, he's kind of the kind of fighter like he's like Ricardo Lamas, just without the refinement. I feel is what his like best case scenario is. He's just not as savvy right now. I don't know. He's just kind of like a meathead wrestler. So he kind
yeah,
of gets hit clean, but he'll also when he does throw, he is pretty dangerous.
I'm gonna have to
Like
look
or
into the
like
prop.
Brian Kelleher. Him versus Brian Kelleher would be a good fight.
Yeah, because he traditionally fights at 35, right? No,
Yeah, but I
maybe
like the
maybe
140. I like the 145. I was just talking to one of my friends. He used to fight at 135. I was talking and he was like, "Man," I told him I was like, "Man, you should have fought at 145. You would have been a freaking animal." So yeah, I totally agree. So,
yeah, I don't
I
know
like that.
much about this one. I don't have a confidence. I guess Argueta will win in without much
Short
difficulty,
Kings.
but
Yeah, stick
the
with the
props
Short
are in.
Kings, Martian.
Yep. Um,
E3 guy also, Diana Argueta. We like that.
um, Next fight, flyweight division in men's, Alan Nascimento, Carlos Hernandez. Nascimento, big favorite here, minus 330. Hernandez, plus 270. Your turn to start this one off. You got any thoughts here?
I like these guys. I like these guys a bit. You know, Carlos Hernandez did, mess up my boy Vic. So, I'm a big fan of Vic's. Actually thought there was a case to be made very low key that Vic won that fight, but a lot of people weren't looking to hear it, and I didn't really care that much, so I didn't make it. But yeah, I mean, Carlos Hernandez is pretty well rounded. He has like a lot of experience in like that amateur MMA. You know, it's kind of weird to always like do that year over year, in my opinion. But he did it, and then he went pro, and right, he's winning. Um, and he's well rounded, but he's just kind of like low athletic ceiling. Now, Ali Nascimento, he just like a guy that is tough for me to have faith with, but he ends up looking value like every time he fights. So you kind of always are inclined to want to play him because he sometimes like he doesn't really forget to grapple. That's the thing. Like he will always do that, but then he just doesn't always grapple like efficiently to win the fight. But he's pretty skilled everywhere. He's a long rangy flyweight. Um I kind of like the Hernandez side more, or maybe thinking about playing him live just because I feel like Alan Nascimento his style is not as good if he's not a controlling guy. So he's kind of like a go with the flow guy when he like if he does get you on the ground. So if Carlos Hernandez can defend a few, a few transitions, keep them grappling, moving around, I feel like he could definitely win these later rounds. Um so I'm kind of leaning towards him, and even, especially at the underdog price. I thought it was gonna be a bit closer lined, but I could definitely see Nascimento submitting him for sure.
Yeah, I actually, I think it's a pretty clear Hernandez or pass in the money line, and I think I would actually be a little surprised by the sub. I know Hernandez can be put in bad positions, especially when he gets taken down. He does tend to give up his back, but Nascimento. I just don't think he's that high level of a submission grappler, especially in terms of when he's on top. He's really good, off his back with his guard. If you're ever fighting a wrestler, I would not want to be betting on that wrestler because Nascimento is just nasty at tying guys up and reversing position, doing damage from the bottom, and just being really pesky on bottom like he was in that two-year fight. Which a lot of people had him winning that fight, and then he just dominated Hadley in his last. I just think the market tends to be a little too high on him here. I think Hernandez is going to be probably the better striker overall. I mean, I think it'll be close in the feet, but do think Hernandez is more comfortable and cleaner. And the guy's been in competitive back and forth fights that went to the decision lately. The Barras fight and the Altamirano fight, both, solid fighters. And the fact that he came out on top winning those decisions in competitive fights, means a lot because I think this will be a competitive fight. I think he's got good experience in the third round of fights. And I think if Allen isn't able to just take him down and blanket him on the ground over and over again, I think this fight's going to play a lot closer than the line indicates. And I'm actually on the goes to distance here. I think that Allen sub is really the only finish threat we have to worry about. Allen KO doesn't seem really plausible at all, and Hernandez just doesn't hit hard himself, and should be at a jiu-jitsu disadvantage as well. So I think that him subbing Allen would be unpredictable. So really only see one possible finisher, and that will be Allen sub. And I just don't think it's near 40% like the line indicates. So I'll happily take that GTD, and I'm likely going to add a small money line bet on Hernandez as well. That's going to take us to the next fight in the bantamweight division. A lot of lower weight fights in these early prelims. Uh, Contender Series guy coming off or making his UFC debut, Mateus Mendoza taking on Javid Basharat. Basharat big favorite at -305, Mendoza plus 255. I don't really have many thoughts about this fight. I taped Mendoza, and the guy looks pretty spastic, and he had that goofy KO on the Contender Series, and his Brazilian regional fights just look like crazy chaotic fights where it's just your typical Brazilian brawler, um, and just not a whole lot of refined skill. And he also nearly
Whoa,
got knocked.
it's stereotype.
He was nearly knocked out in one of his fights. I forgot. I think it was the Nobre fight. Like he was like inches away from being knocked out in the first round of that fight. So I don't know. I don't think this guy's going to be winning many UFC fights, and especially not against Basharat. That would be a pretty huge upset. I honestly think it's like favorite or pass. I think if Mendoza is winning, it's without a doubt going to be by inside the distance. There's no way he's winning a decision over Basharat. So you might as well just take the extra few dollars on Mendoza ITD plus 500. But even then, I don't think it's a good bet. I think this is going to be all Javid here. It's just a matter if it's going to be decision or ITD. Don't really have an opinion on one of those. Maybe I'll do some more research into the props here. But Basharat should roll here.
So it's Mendonca, right? It's Mendonca.
No, Mendoza.
Oh, it's Mendonca. The Mendonca, I mean, he he's kind of like Marlon Moraes, Shaman Moraes. Like he's like kind of like that kind of fighter. But here, just give me the under. Take the under here because I could see maybe Mendonca like either hitting Javid because Javid's kind of like a counter guy as well. So sometimes these counter guys they get fucking too confident and they get fucking blasted. And as well, he's got that long ass neck. So I could see him definitely getting guillotined, something like that. Or I could see him out grappling Mendonca. Mendonca kind of given, hasn't really been too late many fights. And I feel like he will also at some point have some offense that will kind of tire him out a little bit. And this dude Javid, he's kind of like a chip away guy, but he knows how to find a finish. I think if a guy's very tired, especially. So I'll take the under at
I like that thought. Yeah.
like pick 'em price. It's a bet that I
Two
like.
and a
I'll
half
take
too,
that.
yeah. I honestly thought when you said that, I was thinking it was 1.5, but 2.5, yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, Mendoza seems like a killer be killer type of guy, and I just think gonna be
He's
outclassed by a
throwing.
few
He's
levels
not.
here.
This dude's not coming. Most like their stereotype. Most these Brazilians when they come in, man, they come in to fight. Like, in my
He's not
opinion,
soft cocking it
like
as some would say.
these guys are they're gonna throw hands if you're in their face. So Javid, he's like doing that in and out stuff, but I think they're gonna exchange and if it's gonna happen, bodies will hit the floor.
What I think is a little wild to think actually, no, Javi was only -165 against, Gravely. I was gonna say he's not even that much of a bigger favorite against this guy than he was Gravely, but he is. So, next fight, another debut fight. Both guys making their debut, lightweight division. Mateusz Rebecki taking on Nick Fiore. Um, the liner for this one, Rebecki -800, Fiore plus 550. I'm sure the pronunciation isn't too good on this one as well. They were pronouncing this guy's name on contenders like Rubecki or something. I don't know how Polish works, but I don't know how you get an "oo" sound in that name. But anyway, Rebecki's gonna absolutely dumpster this guy. Fiore, complete fake fighter. He's a role player right now in the UFC, and he's probably gonna get beat up a few times before going back to the regionals without a win. So I think Rebecki finish might even be value here, minus 225. I mean, on the feet, on the ground, Rebecki should win and finish any way he wants. So, seems like a matter of when the finish is coming. I think it'll probably be round one.
This is a funny fight because when I saw it said Nick Fiore, I'm like, what? The Nick Fiore that would fight like Ring of Combat. But then it so happened that there are two Nick Fiores, one from Massachusetts and one from like the New York area. They both fight MMA and they're both in the same weight class. I would bet on the New York Nick Fiore beat this guy. And they both so happen to be like Henzo black belts. Like this guy, this is the thing that I don't trust about the New England fight, scene. All these guys have like these records that I just don't get like who's thinking that this is like a good idea to put it together like this? I don't know. But point being, I just don't see UFC level kind of, skills from Fiore. I feel like it's the guy who could maybe if he had maybe like 3, 4 more fights, but he's going against Rebecki, who Rebecki's Polish, right? He's kind of and I think he did some of his camp maybe before his Contender Series fight at ATT, and that ATT Polish pipeline has been pretty solid overall. And I think he kind of delivered pretty easily in his contender fight. And these Polish guys, I don't know what their diet is. They got some good cardio, man. A lot of like I don't know if you saw that guy Pedro Carvalho. He fought another one of these Polish guys. Looks just like Rebecki, and this guy just didn't get tired. And I don't know. They're like pretty good grapplers, tough as fuck, cardio. So yeah, I'm gonna try to work something in with this fight finishing Rebecki finishing him. But maybe, I think it's a volatile fight potentially because, you know, these dudes they do make mistakes sometimes, but it's a weird fight.
Yeah,
Rebecki should
he
not be
eats
fighting this guy.
potatoes and cabbage. By the
Becky
way,
should not be
potatoes and
fighting
cabbage.
this guy, man. Like a 6-0 guy, right? How many fights does Fiore have? Like six.
Yeah, yeah.
Fiore would be good for like the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, or just let him keep racking up some fake
Like
wins
those are the kind
on
of
the
guys that
regional.
you want to get on the Ultimate Fighter, like guys that are like looking for the fast track in UFC. Got like 6, 7 fights. Yeah, okay, if you want to do it that way, where you're like racking up these fights against bums, so the perfect guys for the Ultimate Fighter. Just make it like maybe more lucrative. I don't know, but I don't like these kind of guys getting short notice fights against real guys. But whatever.
All right, the next fight's going to be in the middleweight division. We got another contender series guy making his UFC debut, Claudio Ribeiro, taking on Abdul Razak Al Hassan. The line for this one, a near pick'em. Ribeiro slight favorite, minus 115. Al Hassan, minus 105. You got any thoughts on this middleweight fight?
Yeah, I looked at Claudio for his contender fight a little bit. I think I went against him there. Really learn anything other than obviously the guy does have fight ending power at any time. I think he's got power in both his hands. I think you have seen him, land some pretty big knees as well, throws kicks. He's just like kind of like a freestyle fighter, I guess I would describe him as, but someone who kind of he takes like the back foot a little bit, or like goes second a little bit in the grappling exchanges. So I think he is a guy that could be taken down, but he's always gonna be like that kind of like dynamic guy, like Michelle Pereira or fighters like that, where they could land a fight-ending blow from any kind of position, and you shouldn't be surprised. Al Hassan, on the other hand, obviously this is up at 185, so he's not cutting down to 170 anymore. He's shown obviously he's got power, he's got good kicks. He's been showing a little bit more of a strategic approach, I think, in some of his more recent fights. But also, it's not like a guy that you 100% trust overall. But I think here, him being a pick'em price, I think is solid here. It is a situation where he is getting older, and he is a guy who he's not the most durable in terms of one shot. I think he can take, damage and punishment, but he is still susceptible to like a big one shot knockout. So I think Claudio could find a button there. And he's never won a fight by decision as well, even though, his last fight, it did look better in his conditioning. So it's trepidatious on both sides. I think Al Hassan, is the right side probably going into it. I think I'm gonna have a little wager on him. But, I do sometimes get guys like Claudio wrong, or it's just variance when you have a guy like him. And it's not the most X's and O's wise. It's not the best matchup for Al Hassan because he is probably going to be available to be hit by stuff. But I'll side with him. That being said,
I am actually excited to bet on Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and this is something I started doing a little bit better towards the end of the year. Is just having less preconceived notions about fighters, and I know Razak has looked. He's like what 1-5 in his past 6 fights or something like that. Just looked pretty bad lately, and he's overall just not a good fighter. But this is I mean, he was in the UFC for several years, and he's fighting at a consistent UFC level competition. Of course he's going to look not so great. If you put Ribeiro against those same amount of guys, he looks just as awful, if not worse. And watching Ribeiro's fights before the Contender Series, I mean, his most recent fight before he got to the UFC, yeah, he was fighting a guy, Kelly's Albuquerque, who is 25-21. That's his record currently. He's 40 years old, and he took the first 2 rounds off of Ribeiro, pushing him against the cage, grappling him, taking him down. Ribeiro just doesn't seem to have any idea on how to defend takedowns or keep his back off the cage. And even his best attribute, which is offensive striking, I mean, I really don't even think that is that good. I think this guy just swarms people, hits hard, and knocked a few people out. But that's what Abdul Razak Al Hassan does too, and I think he actually has like a brown belt in judo. He's been fighting at the higher level for a lot longer, and I just think that this line is just recency bias. Like Ribeiro, oh, what a crazy knockout in the Contender Series. Razak is 1-4 in his last 5. Oh, Ribeiro should roll. I think that's really what a lot of people are thinking here. But Ribeiro just screams fraud to me. And I recognize he could definitely knock Abdul out in round 1 here, but Ribeiro winning the fight outside of knockout would surprise me, and I think the later the fight goes, it should favor the more, experienced guy in Abdul, and who actually, maybe showed a little bit of improvement in his cardio in his last fight, winning around 3 versus, Joaquin Buckley and almost winning a decision outright against Buckley there, so I'm excited to bet on Abdul here. I think it'll be a probably 1.5 unit play. Risky high variance fight, but I actually like the Al Hassan side here. And that's going to bring us to the first fight on the main card, first main card of the year, and kicking things off with Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Heoni Barcelos. Insane line here. Umar minus 1,000, Barcelos plus 700. Um, I mean, Barcelos is a really solid fighter. I mean, I would give him like a B plus across the board in all areas. And I know he's pretty old at this point. I think he's like 35. Probably got to the high level of the MMA a little bit too late. But the guy's still a really good fighter, and I just don't see any reason why he's plus 700 here. Obviously, Umar is likely to initiate the grappling, try to take him down, grind him against the cage, push him against the cage, and kind of just like clinch and hang on to a victory here. But I don't know, man. If you look at Hayoni's recent fights, like, does he fit? Had he looked bad against any grapplers? No. Has he fought and lost to any grapplers? Not since 2014, where he got choked out in a fight. But I mean, Hayoni's a really good fighter everywhere. He's never been out grappled in the UFC. He's never been anywhere near this level of an underdog. Maybe we're talking ourselves into wolf tickets here and getting our high hopes up for Barcelos. He might just get neutralized and grappled to a decision here, but this line just seems insane to me that you're getting, a high quality fighter at plus 700. No matter who the opponent is in that situation, I think that you got to be taking a shot on the dog here. So, we'll definitely have a bet on Hayoni here. Are you sharing the same sentiment?
I don't know, but hell yeah, I love this fight. Another one in the books, hopefully for the Russia versus Brazil rivalry. Um, I think Ione has a better shot than a lot of his other Brazilian compatriots, such as Patricky Pitbull, who somehow did you see Patricky Pitbull is in that 8 man?
That tournament, yeah.
How, bro? Let it
So
go.
is Benson Henderson, yeah.
Let it go. Let it go. I don't know, man. Something that it's MMA. It's like I know it's easy to get attached to some of these fighters. It's like you should be like a general manager in these other sports, right? They'll have their guy, right? Like their running back who's really good. After a while, you just have to move on from him and get a new motherfucker in there. Like me, I just move on to the next fighter. All right, Grand Dawson, that's my guy. Drick is Duplessis, this is my guy. People hang on to Tony Ferguson way too late, and then they lay juice on him against Nate Diaz, and it's like he just never pays off for you. You know what I'm saying? So and then this next new year, I think we should all do a better job of doing that. But that being said, with this fight with Ione Barcelos, I thought he looked good against what's his name? Um, what's that guy's name? The last guy he beat up, Trevin Jones. He beat Trevin Jones up easily, all over him. And I'm gonna be interested how Umar approaches the fight. He's kind of southpaw there, but does he push the grappling or is he like tentative? So it's gonna depend on who can control the fight, who can go first. I think skill for skill. I think Hyroni could definitely hang at the highest level. I just think he needs to kind of get to his offensive, maneuvers first, and how he wants it, control the pace. But, I think people are holding that Victor Henry fight too much against him because I don't really think that or Omar is gonna push the fight at any point like that. So I think that is moot.
Fuck no.
These Russians need to lose though. Like you saw my boy Patchy Mix, he put up with a Northeast fella and he didn't make it out there conscious. And always hoping for
I do
rooting for the Russians to lose.
I do feel like a little bit of a vibe of maybe Demir and Armand here. Armand just not. We're just gonna consistently get. I don't think it's gonna be like a bodying like that was, but I could see just Umar just clinging on to him, holding from the back, and somehow winning the decision in anticlimactic form.
Like like
I
like
definitely think
Charles
that's most
Johnson
likely.
versus Malkayev, like that.
Yeah, yeah, that shit. Exactly, almost identical. But I
Virtually
honestly
identical.
think I don't know, man. I think Barcelos is a better chance than Johnson did in that fight. Um, Anyway, we're moving on. We're getting into some good fights here. Not this next one, but eventually. Ketlin Vieira taking on Raquel Pennington. Actually, I take that back. I fuck with Rocky. Definitely one of the better women on the roster to watch. Maybe not to watch, but to bet on for sure. She's consistent. Uh, whoa, whoa, whoa! You just raped our ears there for a second with some static. Anyway, bantamweight division. Ketlin Vieira taking on Raquel Pennington. The line for this one, pick 'em, or actually no, some action coming in on Vieira minus 125, Raquel Pennington plus 105. You got any thoughts on this one?
Could you actually go
Or
first
Mike?
on that one? Can you actually go first on
Yeah,
this?
yeah, sure. So man, I like Rocky here. I mean, I just think that um she's constantly in competitive decisions with women. I know that she typically only wins 29-28. It's not like there's a whole lot of clear upside here, but I do think she's the better boxer than Ketlin. And I think that Ketlin really relies on pushing women to the cage, using her size and kind of neutralizing them against the cage. But Raquel is very comfortable in that position. She's got really good understanding of the clinch positions. And I just think like you never have to worry about her making mistakes in the clinch. She always knows when to get the overhook. She always knows when it's to trade the position. And she's just very comfortable in those clinch battles where I think this fight is destined to end up. And she's going to be landing good knees to the body in there. She's going to be landing some punches on the break. And I do feel that the Vieira has the bigger, like dominant upside in the fight with maybe a takedown or two. That could look bad for Raquel if she gets taken down, but she's got historically good takedown defense, and it's not like Vieira is a consistent wrestler herself. So um, I don't think you can be like super confident in here laying multiple units on Raquel, but I think that she should be a slight favorite in this fight. So I think, 1 unit on her money line at the current price is appropriate. And I just think that she's going to win this, close battle of a decision. I expect it to be a 29-28 for Rocky here.
Interesting, interesting. This is a fight that you've thought about a decent amount, right? Am I right? Or have a strong opinion
Yeah,
on?
as much as one could. No, no, I wouldn't go as
As
far to
much
say
as one could.
strong.
You could a lot. I've seen you rack your brain over some of these fights. So.
Nah, this one you only can do so much.
Okay.
You really only can.
Okay. So anyway, I mean, I thought this is a pretty interesting fight. I was kind of surprising that these girls hadn't fought yet. Obviously Raquel, she's been, she like you said, she's very consistent. You can always depend on her to have 3 rounds of cardio. You could always depend on her to, for the most part, other than Holly home fight, throw at a decent rate. She's strong, she's pretty durable. And she has like a low variant style overall. So, I think I bet on her the last like three, maybe 4 fights. But in this fight, I kind of like Ketlin Vieira more because I kind of like made it not like a tried and true rule, but I like getting the better grappler in these women's MMA fights. When they're kind of in that clinch, that's the thing. Raquel has been controlling these girls in the clinch very well, but not a lot of them have been very, very, good grapplers. And even against a girl like Aspen Ladd, you know, when she's fighting, she's like not very active. She's like kind of not as dangerous as like a girl like Catlin, who I think the fights against Misha Tate and Holly Holm have kind of thrown people a little bit off the scent of, Ketlin's actually a much more dangerous girl than I think a lot of these girls at 135. She does have some power when she throws, and she obviously has the best ground game out of any of them. So I feel like she could just potentially get to like more offensive positions in these 50-50s that Raquel's always in. So I like Ketlin here, slight favorite. I'm kind of like waiting in the wings. This is a bet I will make though, I'm pretty sure. But I like the Ketlin side. Obviously it was that close to evens, and now it's, you got to lay a quarter. So I'm looking around. I'm seeing, I think there's like two-way action on this fight. So, but I'll take Ketlin here. Uh,
Well, looks like we're going head to head there. But I do agree that she's the better grappler. I just think that Vieira doesn't leverage that nearly as much as she should have. I mean, she took down Holm one time, Misha 0 times, Yana 3 times, and somehow lost the fight. And then she took down Eubanks early on, but then gassed out. I think she's got a little bit. I mean, maybe the cardio has gotten better over the 5 round fights, but I mean, Eubanks and Yana, she lost both of those round threes. So. Um, I don't know though. I don't fault you for picking her at all. It'll inevitably a close decision, and if one woman is winning 30-27, I think it does have more potential to be your lady, Vieira. The GTD there, honestly, is parlay material. -300. That shit should be like -900, honestly. So, um, next fight, middleweight division, Puna taking on Roman Kopylov. Uh, Puna, the favorite, -155. Kopylov +135. I know you're excited for this one. Let's hear some thoughts.
yeah, I've been a fan of Puna's. He's got a lot of skills, but some in these fights kind of don't always, work out all the way together. Roman, haven't ever really liked this guy all that much. I think in his last fight, I think you picked Alessio though, and I picked Roman. And I thought that was a good fight overall from the both of them, like entertainment wise. But I just thought that, and at the end, Jericho was like, fuck it, and kind of got knocked out. But it didn't really teach me that much about Roman. This is a Southpaw versus Southpaw fight. I feel like Una's just gonna be able to do what he wants in terms of kind of like pick and choose when he wants to engage. I think he is the rightful favorite. I think he should be favored probably a little bit more, just because Roman doesn't do that much attritional work. He's kind of like a back foot counter fighter, doesn't have a lot of power in his hands, doesn't look to have very dangerous submission grappling, and his cardio doesn't look overwhelming either. So I feel like Puna has a lot of advantages here, and a lot of advantages that are very clear in the kind of fight that is going to break out here. So I like him here actually as a favorite price. It's been coming down, so looks like maybe not a fight that you need to jump on if you do like Puna. But I feel like even though Roman does have more experience than Puna, feel like overall Puna has more to give and should have think an improvement here in the performance.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with most of that. I mean, I definitely think that Kopylov is better than I once expected, and he's probably consistently getting better, too. I mean, the guy is, I don't even think he's like 30 yet, right? No, no, he's 31. Um, but I think he is getting better fight to fight, and that was evident in his last fight against ADC. And, I think I have an angle for this fight. That would be a Puna live bet, and that would be just because Kopylov's offense is like a lot of blitzes, right? Like you saw that in the early round versus ADC. He was able to just blitz and throw, some body kicks and some 2 or 3 punch combinations, and he was darting in and out with that kind of karate style, and he was able to, land some nice shots while doing that. But then in round two, you saw those blitzes kind of drop off, and he doesn't really have consistent offense outside of those blitzes. So Puna being a guy who does tend to start maybe a little slow, Dalsha 1 round 1 off him. I think there could be an angle here for Kopylov, maybe just starting fast, being a little janky, Puna having trouble figuring him out, and then eventually Puna will take over in the later rounds, rounds 2 and 3. Obviously, the risk there is that if Puna could just knock him dead in the first round, but I think I don't think Kopylov is a guy whose style is built for building into fights better. I think it's the opposite way around. He's built better for starting fast, and that means that you're probably better off, mitigating a little bit of the risk and waiting to live bet on Puna live here. I think Puna has grappling upside here as well, right? He does come from a wrestling background, has wrestled to win fights in the past. And Kopylov was, taken down a lot by Duraev. Carl Roberson fucking out grappled and subbed him back in the day. So I think that grappling hole is probably still there that Puna can
Who are
exploit.
you
So
picking to win this fight,
Puna,
John?
Puna for sure.
Okay.
Puna KO 2. I'll go.
Picking him to win.
Yeah,
Okay.
Puna KO 2. What are the? I think that actually the not yeah. Somebody was talking about the GTD. I think the ITD tempo
Puna
prices
is gonna win
are,
this
are
fight.
are priced accurately.
Puna
I
is
think
gonna
so
win this
too. But
fight.
what's bad for you is I think that, and I've been wrong about Kopylov a few times.
Puna
Maybe I shouldn't be so harsh
Puna
on myself. I bet on Duraev against Kopylov and easy winner.
Puna is going to win
Um,
this fight.
Probably. Um, don't think he's an easy click at -150 though, right? Not like easy.
No will win this fight.
Co-main event time, featherweight division, banger of a fight. Dan Ige taking on Damon Jackson. The line for this one, Ige -116, Jackson -104. A shitload of line movement coming in on this fight. Jackson apparently opened -160. Ige was immediately steamed. Jackson went to a dog price, and then he got bet back this week. So, I mean, throughout the past few weeks, waves of action have been coming in on both different fighters. So clearly, a very polarizing fight here. And I've done some tape, and I will be confirming the pick as Damon Jackson, the leech. I just think obviously the grappling onslaught of Damon is going to be too much for Ige, and I recognize that that is Jackson's pretty much only path. Ige can win this fight in a few different ways, but for Jackson to win, he has to get his grappling going. Um, so because he's at a striking disadvantage here, Ige is going to be the better striker by a decent margin. Ige is a pretty good body puncher, and we saw Jackson have a lot of trouble with that against Taporia. So being this fight being on the feet is not going to be good for Jackson. I don't think he's going to be in imminent danger of being knocked out at all times, but he's going to get hurt, and the fight's not going to go his way. So he needs to get the fight into grappling, and I think he will because Dan Ige's takedown defense is not great. And I think that he is a good overall defensive grappler. He has good awareness and when he's in bad positions on the ground, but I think he's kind of slow in the scrambles at times. Once he initially gets taken down, he might go to his knees and kind of stay there for a second, and then he'll give up his back and get his back taken. That's what Korean Zombie was able to do to him several times in that fight. And that was really the fight that made me confirm Damon Jackson in this spot because I just think that if Jackson gets takedowns, Ige will open up opportunities for his back to be taken, and I think Damon's going to take the back. And in the Argueta fight, Damon took the back for 7, 8, 9 minutes in that fight. He had the body triangle for long periods of time. He was feeling it a little bit in round 3 there in his legs, but also at the same time, Damon Jackson versus Charles Rosa was in a high paced grappling fight. He got his head split open, was leaking pints of blood, and he was still the one pushing the tempo and winning round 3. So I don't think Damon's cardio is too much to worry about. And I just trust him to just shoot takedowns and, pursue a relentless grappling onslaught here for 15 minutes. And I think that should be good enough to get the job done against Danny Gay. But it's a close matchup. It's a really good fight. appropriate fight for being co-main event. Good matchmaking by the UFC, and I'm really, really looking forward to this one. I'm sure you're feeling along the same lines, Ozzy.
Very intriguing fight to have been put together. Obviously, yeah, line movement thing was very interesting. Kind of topped off at about a week ago. No, week ago, last weekend, this weekend, this past weekend was plus money, and now the pick 'em price. And I was thinking this potentially could get back to plus money for Damon, and I hope it does. I am also going to confirm the pick is Damon Jackson, specifically Damon Jackson by submission at plus 700.
Wow.
I would like that as well, to pair on top of the money line price. And just the reasoning here is that Gay, well-rounded guy, but overall his skill level in all the is just not extremely high. And when he does try to press, um, you know, put the foot down, he makes mistakes. Is like the easiest way for me to put it. He knows he's not there, whether it be with the striking or with the grappling or whatever it is, and that's when he gets countered on the feet, and that's when he gets taken down, and that's when he gives up, dominant positions because he's looking for like the shortcut. When he's fighting Chang Sung Jung, right? He knows that how to get out, but he knows he's not getting out in the conventional way against a guy who's just better grappling than him. And I think it's going to be very apparent when they start grappling that Damon is a better grappler than Dan Ige. This is going to be a sweaty fight. I think that you're not going to be super comfortable the whole time, thinking that Damon's going to hold on to win and all these things. So I wouldn't invest heavily into this one, especially now that you have to maybe lay juice on Damon. So I'll take a little bit of the money line, just because I think he is the right side. And then I'll pair it with that prop by submission, so that if he does get one of these like front choke position, something like that, guillotine, rear naked choke, whatever it is, I feel really good about it. But I'll ride a small play on the money line.
Yeah, sick fight to kick things off. Dan Ige is in a little bit of a hole, and doesn't feel good to be getting against him with his back against the wall here a little bit. Um,
You're not
but
coming in his
we got to do
hole.
it anyway.
You're not coming in his hole.
um, Main event time is now apparently a light heavyweight fight. Supposed to be Nassourdine Imavov taking on Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum got kneed in the face in training or something like that. Lost a tooth. Sean Strickland took the call. Main event, back to back main events for Sean Strickland, and yeah, obviously we're not excited to watch another Sean Strickland fight. Ozzy might be. He seems to like the guy more than I do, but these guys' fights are fucking boring. But luckily, on the other side, we have Imavov, the French Muay Thai striker with nasty front chokes, who is just dripping in swag as he fights. And we will definitely be cheering for Imavov on this podcast. Um, the line though, pick him on this one, -110 both sides. And it's your turn to start this one off.
Man,
Main
you were
event.
talking a lot. I'm like, where is he going with this? Is he just gonna take off with it?
I didn't
It's
know.
like a fucking
I did not
it's
know.
like back in the old school days and they would put up like the rocket launching and nothing would happen. They're like, "What's going on here?" Anyway, so yeah, unfortunately, I bet on Sean Strickland his last fight. I thought he won. That fight was bullshit. I don't know what the fuck he was doing. So I think it left a sour taste in my mouth, to be honest with you. And I don't really like this fight overall. So Imavov though, I really like him as a fighter. I was heavily uh, not pro. Like I was heavily against ever even considering betting on Kelvin Gastelum, but people were doing it, and I'm like, man, I think you guys don't learn a lesson here. But here against Sean Strickland, it's just guy. Sean Strickland is a tough test for like these younger fighters, but I think I would still side with Imavov here overall. Um, just but I think the only way I would play him is like inside the distance in like what would end up being maybe like a sloppy fight, maybe some grappling happens, maybe like he gets onto one of those chokes or something like that, or he clips Sean when Sean's trying to, maybe come in too much. Honestly, man, I don't really like the fight overall. It's hard for me to get the right feel for it. I think I would just kind of side with, you know, Imavov trying to finish Strickland, if he does get an opening, which I do think Strickland will be maybe a little bit more aggressive, just because this is not Jared Cannonier or a guy who has known to knock a lot of guys out. But I don't know, these Sean Strickland fights I feel have been a little bit strange overall. I
Very strange.
lose fucking a four-figure bet because Sal D'Amato is a decision to Jack Hermanson. Fucking
What was that bet?
minus 5.5 handicap
Oh, right,
on
right.
Sean Strickland.
That is fucked.
Bro, what was
Yeah.
that? So, I don't know, man, like, bad stuff.
No, that wasn't Sal Diamando, by the way.
Yes, it
I
was,
think that was
bro.
Chris Lee. It was Chris Lee.
No, it was Saudi whoever the fuck it was. One of them. One of those fucks. So, I just have a bad f ta feel for them sometimes, and I like the fight, honestly, and then it being, 205. I like Imavov. I've made a lot of money on Imavov. That was one of my best bets, him versus, Edmund. Easy money. Easy money. But,
Oh, I'm sorry. You're
I
right.
am right, of
Fuck,
course.
I didn't want it to be true.
No,
Anti-Italian discrimination.
no.
But yeah, it was him. Um, but yeah, I mean, you just mentioned it. Strickland is the type of guy where he's now had 2 fights, 2 main events where one judge thought he was winning 4 rounds to 1. Some people thought he won 5-0, and then, somehow a judge thought he lost
It's
3-2,
weird,
and
man.
then
It's like
versus
it's like the Philly shell bullshit that he does, and give him credit when he does land punches, and like they credited Jared with like a ton of body strikes, and I'm like, when did he land a body? Like I was watching if I was trying to like I don't know how I thought Strickland clearly won, clearly.
I don't know about clearly. I don't know. I thought, I had Cannonier winning the fight live. I actually did have him win it 4-1 too. Um, but, I mean, it's just the guy Strickland, he fights in such like an ambiguous way that somehow these scorecards are always up in the air. So that's not something you can feel really good about. Unless he's just wiping a guy out. It seems like any type of close round means that it could be a split round in Sean Strickland fights because the guy doesn't fucking sit down on his shots. He throws out the same jab 1-2 over and over again, hundreds of times a fight with no adaptations and no real, power behind any of the punches. So I think we're getting to a point where, he's probably not a guy you want to be back in. And I just feel if this fight is going to be a live bet fight, man, I feel like Strickland is 1,000% going to be a better price live at some point than he is before the fight. Um, like at some point in the fight, he's going to go to plus money at some point, and possibly way higher. So if you like Strickland, I would honestly wait. I think Imavov is definitely the more likely to start fast and to win the early rounds. You got to be concerned that Imavov. I mean, he slowed down in the Buckley fight. At round 3,
That fight
Buckley
was
he
good.
lost that fight.
That was a good
He
fight.
was getting hit in the Buckley fight. I mean, his chin looked really good. He ate like a huge knee at one point from Buckley and didn't really even look hurt. So I think Imavov is durable. And he's definitely probably taking the cardio a lot more seriously after, kind of gassing out in his last fight. And uh, he's now preparing for 5
Who
rounds. He's been preparing for this
Martian,
fight for a while.
who between these two guys is more likely to win a UFC belt?
Um, Imavov, I guess.
Imavov?
But I mean, it's pretty
It's
low, I would
not
say. I
it's
mean, he's
not
not
that much
beaten.
more likely than Strickland, you think?
I think it's twice as likely. But anyway, we're talking about like 6% versus 3% chance of winning it.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, I think Imavov, I think he'll be landing the harder shots here early. Obviously, I think he just throws and lands with harder intent. And I think that'll be enough to maybe win them the early rounds here. But man, once this gets into round 3, I think it's going to get hairy. I think the experience of Strickland might take over, and he probably should have the cardio advantage here.
I would not bet on
But then you
Sean
still
Strickland pre
no,
that.
no, for
I
sure.
would
But
not
wait,
bet
let
on
me finish.
Strickland.
The cardio dynamic is interesting though because Imavov, there is some footage of him slowing down. But then Strickland, on the other hand, wasn't even training for this fight and took it on a week's notice, so his cardio might not be in as good shape as well. But to me, Strickland strikes me as a guy who he was probably back sparring like 2 days after that Cannonier fight. Like this guy just spars every day. I don't think Strickland's going to be out of shape. I think he's going to be ready to go the full 5. Not as confident as that about Imavov, but I do have a bet on the fight. It is for the fight to start round 4. um, -152. So they think it's a 45% chance this fight ends in the first 3 rounds. I think that's fucking insane. I mean, I think Imavov has a slight chance of finishing early on, but I mean, Strickland finishing Imavov early seems like not impossible, but it would extremely shock me for that to happen. So the only finishing threat early, I think, is Imavov, and I just don't think it's as high as 45%. So I'm playing the fight to start round 4, -132, um, 1.32 units, and that'll be my main bet on the fight. I just think all the overs are good. Starts 4, 5, and GTD are all good. I think this one is going to be a 5-round decision, probably a split decision with how we know Sean Strickland fights go too as well. So go Imavov. Um, any closing thoughts?
No. Mhm.
We haven't discussed this off air, but I say, how about we stop doing the best bet parlay thing this year? I don't think it's really worth it. Do you?
Up to you. I don't know. If I were to pick one though,
Now we're okay.
I were
Yeah,
to
go ahead.
pick one, it would be it'd probably been like between Poon like I like the size like Puna, Ketlin, um Hassan, Carlos Hernandez, but probably Puna. I think Puna's gonna win that, but obviously I'm looking at a little bit shorter though, shorter price. Not a big outlay
Yeah,
though. Not a big outlay on this card. This is not the best card.
yeah. I'm gonna be on the Johnson over. The GTD and Hernandez, I'm already on that one. Yeah, possibly that under in the Basharat fight. I might tell you on that. Al
Oh yeah, that
Hassan money
under. Yeah,
line, Barcelos money line. I'm gonna end up on Raquel money line, Jackson money line, and that starts round 4 in the main event. So
For these
I'm
like
gonna have
fight
some
cards,
action.
like I try to only be like 4 to 6 bets, maybe. I'm not trying to get too
Yeah, I
crazy with
think I'll
it.
probably be like 6 to 8. So, but only maybe 8 units risk total. So anyway, good to be back. Good to be back discussing fights with you, Ozzy. We will be making grinding out some more podcasts as the year goes on. Hopefully, these fights get a little bit better because kind of a lackluster start to the year, and not a whole lot to look forward to on the upcoming calendar. But hopefully, it's a good year betting to keep the juices flowing because some of these matchups just don't really get the juices flowing. So anyway, I hope everyone enjoys the card this weekend. Hope you all win some bets, start the year off 2023 with a bang. And we will see you before the next UFC event, the return to Brazil, first time in 3 years for the UFC in Brazil. Really excited for that next week. So we will see you all then. Peace out, everybody.